Hi, I'm Matt Goodman from the Centre of Digital Education at the EPFL. My official title is E-Learning Technical Specialist, but what that essentially means is that I help professors at the EPFL take their courses from concept through to completion. Throughout the video production process, I'm one of many who will guide our professors on the best way of putting together their courses. This production process can be broken down into three main steps, and this is what we're going to cover in this video. Now, obviously, I can't go into a great amount of detail in such a short video, but don't worry, we'll be taking a look at some of the points in this video in more detail throughout this section on educational videos, which means you'll be seeing more of me. Sorry about that. Now, if you were paying attention, you'd know that I told you there were 3 steps to making videos, but I didn't tell you what they were. Go on, take a guess at what they are. No, that's totally wrong. The 3 steps are pre-production, production, and post-production. Pre-production is everything involved with preparing for recording. This involves organising material, scripting, slide designing, and rehearsing. It's all about getting as prepared as possible for your recordings. This step is arguably the most important because it's during this time that the foundations are laid for the production and post-production steps to build on. Poor foundations means an unstable structure, and this, in terms of video production, means an inefficient and stressful process full of mistakes, corrections, and wasted time. Not good. The production step is recording the learning material that you've prepared. This, for many, is the most daunting step in making videos, stepping in front of the camera, under the lights, with that little red recording light incessantly blinking at you. But with a little insight into this step, you'll see that it needn't be such a stressful process. You can take your time, and you can calmly and methodically work your way through your material and deliver great learning content in a clear and understandable way for your learners. Dare I say it, you might even enjoy the process. Finally, there's the post-production step. This is the most mysterious part of the video production process. This is where your recordings get sent off somewhere and magically come back as completed videos. But this step holds a lot of potential for making your recording material much more pedagogically sound. With a little understanding of what is possible, you'll be able to take a more active role in this process. So, let's take a closer look at each of these 3 stages and see how you can get the most out of each of them. First up is pre-production. With pre-production, there's a lot we could talk about. You could probably do a whole course on this step alone. So, for here and now, we'll just run through the essentials: scripting, slide design, and rehearsing. Most of the time, when I say scripting, people start thinking about a lengthy writing process with drafts, rewrites, and corrections. But it doesn't have to be that complicated. A draft can be as simple as some bullet points for each slide that outline what you want to cover. The whole idea of doing this procedure is for you to lay out clearly what your learning objectives are and how you're going to help your learners achieve them. Also, during the recording process, a script can really help you keep on track. It helps you to avoid going off on tangents and covering non-essential information. Now, if you're giving a presentation, then you're going to want to accompany what you're teaching with helpful and relevant material. This material can come in many different forms: photos, illustrations, diagrams, videos, the list goes on and on. Having all of this material to show presents us with a challenge: how to present it all in a clear and consistent way that helps your learners understand and follow along with what you're covering. This is where slide design comes in. First things first, we would heavily recommend that you set up a slide template for your course. This goes a really long way to visually tie together your course. As a result, it gives a more polished and professional feel to all that you're presenting. In this template, ensure that there is a clear structure to how you're presenting your information. For text, set specific styles for headings, subheadings, and highlighted text to give your learners a clear hierarchy of information. And if you're going to use other media on screen, set clear methods for displaying it. So, for videos, you might want to decide that they are all shown full screen. For photos, you might want to show them next to the presenter. By having this template set up, it'll make it clear for all contributors to your course how they should format their slides, and it'll also speed up the process of making your slides, because most of the design decisions are already taken care of. The final point I'll cover for pre-production is rehearsing. This is quite often an overlooked step in preparing for recording, but it's one step that, in my opinion, can make the most difference in the quality of a recording. Take time to run through your presentation a few times before your recording session. You'll become familiar with what you're going to be covering and how you want to cover it. This invariably leads to smoother, less stressful recording sessions. And if you're less stressed, that means you're presenting better in front of camera. Okay, now on to the next step, production. Most professors that first come into the studio to record at the EPFL come with a mental model of presenting a lecture. They have their slides and they're going to go through them from beginning to end without stopping. Much like a rock that starts rolling at the top of a hill, it's only going to stop when it reaches the bottom. When, in actual fact, you should think of recording more like a train route. Each station on the line is like the end of a slide. You can get to a station and go back to the previous one as much as you like before moving on to the next part of the track. You don't need to give your presentation perfectly from beginning to end. You can break it up and go through section by section, making sure you've said what you want to say and how you want to say it. When I explain this to people, I can almost physically see the weight of the world coming off their shoulders. Suddenly, recording in front of the camera doesn't seem so bad. On to the final step in making videos, post-production. Once your recording is over, your recorded files will normally be sent off for editing. I would recommend that you be in contact with your video editor. I would even suggest that before you start recording your course, you have a meeting with them to talk about what you plan on recording. They could even give you some helpful information about what's possible in the editing process. Typically, they can add in elements to help draw your learner's attention to important information on screen. Bear in mind that your editor is not an expert in your field. They'll be able to correct technical issues or errors in a recording to some degree, but errors in content of the lecture are unlikely to get noticed. When you're reviewing your videos, it will be your responsibility to notice these errors and inform your editor of the corrections that need to be made. This may involve re-recording some sections of your videos, but your editor will let you know if that's the case. So, to summarise, we've taken a look at the 3 different steps to making videos. First up was pre-production, which is the preparation of all of your learning materials and preparing your slides and rehearsing and scripting. Then was production, which is the process of recording your videos. And finally, post-production, which is the process of refining those video recordings down to the final video product. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, we'll be taking a look at some of the specific aspects we spoke about in this video in this section on educational videos. Thanks for watching.